Seattle traffic.
I think you're right. So we're up and
Yeah.
live, and a couple sad boys on today's show. Not for the Broncos reasons, but both of our basketball teams knocked out in the second round. The Kansas Jayhawks and the Iowa Hawkeyes. A little bit sad, but John has given me the thumbs up. I think we are rolling and good to go. John, thank you so much for getting it up. And Carl, happy Tuesday night.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's always great to be in here for Building the Broncos. Yeah. As you know, I am your host, Carl Dumler, of course, joined by Mr. Nick Kendell. And we're getting a different angle of his room here today. I like the little Bronco in the background. You got to love that.
Thank you. Yeah, shout out to Noel, who we interact with on Twitter many a times. He sent that to me as a gift for the wedding. And obviously the wife wasn't as cool, like that one as much. So, I'll take it. Thank you very much. We'll just film Bronco on the back. Thought I'd spruce it up rather than the queen bed that we have in the background right now.
There you go. But you're right. No, our teams got knocked out, and it's a sad day. And it's not that they just got knocked out. They got like creamed. It wasn't even fun to watch. So I don't even know how much more I'm going to pay attention to March Madness. My bracket's gone. It's done.
Killed me. Gosh darn Big Ten.
I know.
But quick, before we even get going on anything else here, I want to give Robert comes it up here. My mom lives close to where those people got killed in Boulder, RIP. I mean, obviously a lot of our listeners, it's a tough subject and just a lot of sadness right now. And I know a lot of you guys are in Boulder or around there and have been either personally affected by this or know somebody's been personally affected by this and real, looking in the face with mortality. So just want to give a shout out to that real quick, thinking of everybody in that area and, enough, right?
Yeah.
Enough. So
yeah, exactly. It just, there are no words when things like this happen. And you do hope that action shows up, that at some point people have to wake up and go, we got to do something. And I hope it's sooner than later for sure.
Well, yeah, sorry about that. Just wanted to touch on that real quick because obviously Carla and I are not in Colorado, but we know a lot of people who are, and a lot of our listeners are in Colorado, and been thinking about all you guys that are in that area the past 48 hours, just how unreal and how much you guys have had to go through. It's not just this. It's talking with John before the show. It's, Columbine. It was Aurora. It's one after another. So we don't want to go too far. This is an escape for many people, and we're going to provide that for you today. And obviously you guys provide that for us too. So we appreciate that. But that's on the front of my mind today. And just, hoping everybody is safe, healthy, and, as good of a headspace as anybody could reasonably hope for at this point.
Right. Couldn't have said it better. But
yeah, all right. Broncos, Denver Broncos.
Yes. Let's get into this. And I guess before we do that, we do have to get to one matter of business. We want to say hello to our presenting sponsor for today, Manscaped. And, listen up, everyone. We know that 2020, it stunk. 2021 has had some rough moments as well. But this is a time to embrace that new me mindset. And the best way to start cultivating that is with Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels and helping 2 million men around the world keep their male grooming on point. If you let yourself go in 2020 while in quarantine, Manscaped is here for you to reboot and stay clean and shaved for 2021.
Yeah, and obviously it's not just the Lawnmower 3.0, which is their pride and joy. And I know that Zach always talks about the nose hair trimmer. I honestly need to get on that. My wife looking at me the other day, I was like, hey, you know what? You're starting to get old. I'm about to be 30 years old. I need to start taking care of the bat cave there. But my favorite product is kind of a small one. It's not like the biggest deal, but the crop mop. I mean, it's ball wipes. I am in the back country constantly when I can be back. Got a pack rod now. Got backpacking trips coming up. And, you have to only bring the essentials when you go backpacking because everything you carry, pack in, pack out, leave no trace. Crop mop. I'm going to say this is essential. I'm going to bring this as my cleaning product of choice. And, it's when you're back there, you don't smell the best, but you're still sharing a tent with a wife or a friend or whatever. You want to take care of down south, bring crop mop with you.
Right. And also we want to let you know that you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. Your family jewels will thank you.
Yeah, guys, once again, that's 20% off plus free shipping if you use the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. 20% off, free shipping at manscaped.com if you use the code HUDDLE. Happy St. Patrick's Day. April's around the corner. Happy spring. God, spring is here. And, ready for it to get to it. But it's going to be nicer outside. That means they're going to be showing off a little bit more. Maybe the guys busting out the short shorts. I know that was all the rage when I was in college, showing off the legs. But if you're doing that, be careful. Maybe you want to use that lawnmower first.
Right. And also I want to let you know, make sure that you guys are finding us on Twitter. I think you've seen we are pretty active and we like to interact. You ask us questions almost all the time. We try to answer everything we can. And so you can find me at Carl Dumler, MHH, Nick at Nick Kendell, MHH, and John at John K, MHH. That's JONKAY, MHH. He is our behind the scenes man doing the hard work for us. And so we really appreciate that. And also make sure you guys are following the Building the Broncos Twitter account at BTB Football Pod, and that you are heading over to the website Mile High Huddle. We've got lots and lots of articles every single day for you to keep you up to date on everything that's going on. Like we've said, we pride ourselves on this time of year and just getting the best information we possibly can, getting you ready for the draft, getting you ready for free agency. And so just make sure you're heading on over there. You do not want to miss anything that we have going on. And we're in that home stretch. We're almost a month away from the draft. And it's an exciting time. And so, yes, we're going to have lots and lots of stuff for you. But also, we're right here in the middle of free agency. Broncos made another move today.
Two moves.
Oh, good point. Okay, they cut one player and added another. But also make sure, before I get to all that you subscribe, like, and share our show here today. That is the best way that you guys can help us. Click those little thumbs up for us. It just makes a huge difference. I thank you guys for all that you do for us. It just makes the world of difference. We feel very loved all the time. So, all right, well, let's get into this. And we have already a couple supers coming in here. Michaela Parker coming in with about a $50 super chat. Really appreciate that.
Boom.
Yeah, right off the bat, just hitting it. So stoked to see K-Jax coming back to the Broncos, our main subject of today. I just wish it was for more than 1 year. Lots of love to the whole MHH family. And Nick, this is the big news. 1 year, $5 million contract, bringing back Kareem Jackson. We had talked about it last week that the one spot on the defense that really still has a big hole that you have to find a starter for, that other safety spot opposite of Simmons. And here the Broncos go. They go get the guy that probably makes the most sense, knows the defense, is a great player. And I'm excited, man. This secondary. I'm not sure there's when everyone is healthy, I'm not sure you could make an argument for a better secondary than what the Broncos have right now.
Maybe the Ravens, just because the corners are younger, healthier, a little bit more ball skills. I mean, the biggest thing with the secondary that scares me is Bryce Callahan and Ronald Darby, their injury history. I hate to be the Debbie Downer right away, but you can't overlook the injuries those guys have. But I mean, on paper, it's really good. I'm so happy to have Justin Simmons back this going forward. Next was a 4-year deal. And Kareem Jackson, I think it was asked from Michelle there. Thank you so much for the super chat. You've been very active in the community here, and we definitely recognize that. But why wasn't it for more than one season? The answer is age, guys. Kareem Jackson, he's going to be 33 years old April 10th. And for a safety, safeties tend to play 33, 34, 35, but that cliff could be coming any second. You don't want to commit too far down the line. Let's say he gets injured this year and can't recover. You don't want to have $6 million committed, $4 million committed in 2022 when you're going to need that flexibility. So right. It's a great deal for this season. It's another commitment to Vic Fangio. There was some talk of Vic's going to be gone anyway. George Payton's not going to commit to him. That turned out to be a lie. This was an all-in on Vic Fangio offseason so far, especially with these defensive signings. I mean, they're going out and getting scheme fits, guys that Vic wants. I mean, obviously loves Kyle Fuller, had his best seasons with the Vic. Apparently Ronald Darby was the Broncos' #1 cornerback target for Vic's scheme. That's who Vic wanted. You get him back. You bring back Justin Simmons. You bring back Shelby Harris. I mean, this defense on paper, it should be one of the best defenses in the league. Now, right. Injuries, age, depth, those are things that we still we'll see how it comes to play. But man, this is as good as I've felt about this team's roster since 2015.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Mike Clay came out with a tweet earlier today. He said, if we are looking beyond just the quarterback position at rosters and what has been built, the Broncos have a top 10 roster in football. And that's what you love to hear.
Yeah.
You want to get the quarterback position figured out, but if you can at least get a top 10 roster surrounding a quarterback, you feel at least a little bit better about your ability. Now, your ability to get over the top to win a Super Bowl, that's where the quarterback's going to come into play. But right now with this roster, I think you are looking at least 6 to 7 wins, depending on injuries, obviously, that just the roster itself can go out there and find ways to win because of the talent that is in the Broncos building.
I would say 9 wins. Honestly, if we're talking about a 17-game season, which I think is that official? True. Somebody let me know.
Yeah.
If this team doesn't go over 500 next year, then you have to completely reevaluate it. And it's very much a this season roster with a lot of these signings. You touched on that. Bryce Callahan gone next year. Kyle Fuller is going to be 30 or already 30 years old. Maybe wants another payday, but like for cornerbacks, especially that 30-year-old mark is like scary. Guys can fall off quickly from that. Kareem Jackson. So those are guys that I wouldn't call them mercenaries, but it's very much a 2021 lens for that view. And that's all in on Vic Fangio. And that really speaks to how Peyton views Vic Fangio too. I mean, there's a reason that a lot of the teams across the NFL right now are trying to mimic Vic Fangio's defense. I mean, we saw what the Rams did last year with him with really bad linebackers. I see a lot of people saying, oh, now we just need a linebacker to take this over the top. Tell me who the Rams linebackers were, because I mean, I know who they are, but like you ask, your average NFL fan, no idea. I'm not talking also outside linebacker Leonard Floyd. That's an edge rusher, folks. Let's get the vernacular up to date.
Yes.
It's God, I'm so excited about this defense, the team. I know the quarterback position is still the one that's kind of like in the back of my head, because if you don't have a quarterback, you're in a creek without a paddle, in a canoe without a paddle, whatever you want to say. I mean, Mike Clay did say, I think it's kind of funny. He's mentioned that, the top 10 roster without the quarterback position. But when Mike Clay does his roster rankings, this quarterback position weighs 25% of his grade. No other position's higher than 10%. So quarterback's 2.5 times as much as the entire offensive line, so to speak. So it's kind of a little bit like, it's great, but it's like the big thing, all caps. But if you don't have the quarterback, you need exceptional luck. And we'll see. Right.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it before. There's been a couple exceptions. The Bears with Trubisky, the Jaguars with Bortles, where they had top 10 rosters. People stayed healthy and were able to make a good run in the playoffs. But we still see that quarterback matters. Jimmy Garoppolo with the 49ers, I think, is another great example, having a top 10 roster easily. And it wasn't there. But all right, let's move on to our next one here. Jake King coming in with a $9.99 super chat. What's the ceiling for Albert O? Player comparison?
That's a tough one. I mean, he's a big, very straight line guy. And if you get him the ball, he can do things because he's, 6'6", 255?
Something like that, yeah.
He's not the best route runner. Kind of turns like a battleship because he's a little highly built, and it's physics, guys. Higher center of gravity, harder to stop. It's why there's not many 6'3" cornerbacks out there. They need to be shifty and quick. And if you're 6'3", you can't move as fast. Same with offensive line, right? Like if the guys are tall, Samuel Cosme, offensive tackle, Texas, too tall, just like gets blown back. He just cannot sink his anchor. Good athlete though. He can kind of Colton Miller his way to beat guys to spots. But Albert O, player comparison. Stick on that one, Carl. What are your thoughts on Albert Okwuegbunam? Now that if we're going to cover the Broncos, we better be able to say it. Albert Okwuegbunam.
Yeah, there we go. So, I mean, I still like his potential on the team because I do think he is obviously he's a red zone threat. The Broncos tried to use him in that way last year a little bit when he was healthy. We saw that in the Patriots game. He had a couple drops, unfortunately, but him attacking the seam, that's a great thing to have, especially, like I said, in the red zone where the Broncos were not great. I think they were 27th in the NFL last year in red zone efficiency for their offense. And that's not going to cut it. But you need guys like this that can go up, high point the ball, go win, get the rebound kind of thing. And he's kind of a nice little counter there where he's the big, tall guy. And then you got Noah Fant, who can run quick routes across the middle, doing different things. They can do the outside routes. So you got a little bit of at least difference between those two and what they bring to the table. But he's got some limitations, obviously, like I said. His turning ability, not great. Blocking ability, still has to really improve on that. And I'm not sure, like I said, with his high center of gravity, that's going to show up in his blocking too. And I don't think it's going to always be faster Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham had such incredible ball skills, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like when you compare Tim Patrick to Cortland Sutton, like Tim Patrick's really good, but Cortland Sutton like plays in slow motion when he goes up for the ball because he's just so good in the air. Like it's different. But that's, I don't know, maybe somebody like Tony Scheffler, right? Like
There you
he
go.
was big, he could run fast. Not always the best route runner, but he was an athlete. And if you got him the ball that had his team, he could do some things. Another one that comes to his size comparison that like, oh, he's big, so therefore he can block, but like that's not always the case. Austin Stefarian-Jenkins is another one as well. Delaney Walker, that's one. He was an amazing blocker, and he was kind of an H-back as well. So I don't really like that comp for that one being flashed. Delaney Walker, great tight end for a long time. But we'll see what happens. I like Albert Okwuegbunam a lot. I guess the biggest thing for me right now, and this is a good pivot here, we'll get to some more supers here in a second. Broncos move on from Nick Vannett, saving some cash. I think they saved about $3 million. Somebody can correct me in the comments if that's incorrect. That's just off the top of my head.
2.5.
2.5. Okay.
Yep.
I rounded up. So 2.5 million. And now the Broncos are sitting there with Albert Okwuegbunam and Noah Fant at tight end. That's fine. Great. La-di-da. Who's playing Y? Who's the inline tight end? Now, it's not that Noah Fant can't block, but do I want Noah Fant being that sixth offensive lineman? That's Nick Vannett, not great. I would have probably just kept Jeff Hireman because you already had dead money, and I thought they were the same player, essentially. But there's not a wide tight end on the roster right now that I see.
Yeah. That's going to be an area that they definitely need to look into. When they don't carry a fullback, they need somebody that can be that inline blocker that can help out in the run game, especially when you get closer to the red zone. And just like I said, they don't have that right now. I would not trust Noah Fant or Okwuegbunam with it. And so might be an area that you're looking at the draft and saying, hey, in those mid or early day 3 picks that you're sitting there saying, hey, this is maybe a place that we start looking.
Yeah, definitely. And this is a good one here. Probably one of the better wide tight ends in this class from Notre Dame, Tommy Tremble. He's probably my number 2 wide tight end behind Pat Freiermuth from Penn State, who was really injured this season, but was phenomenal 2 years ago. I really liked Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State, but he decided to return for whatever reason. Why him and Chris Olave returned, they both would have been easy top 70 picks this year. Whatever. Good for them, I guess. Also, we got BNS coming in here with a cute dog pick. One of the best pods out there. Thank you so much, BNS. Hit the like button, guys. I double that. He's smart. He's a smart guy. All we need is a right tackle. Fa'alele, hashtag All Pro Bulls. I think Fa'alele returned to college. So the 6'10", 400-pound offensive tackle from Minnesota. Not on the menu this season. However, I will say if you're looking for a big offensive tackle there, Spencer Lee had his pro day at Northern Iowa the other day, 6'8", and jumped out of the building. He's kind of a weight room warrior. There's a little bit of technique stuff that he's got to do still. Sometimes he's a little bit more of a athlete, strong in the weight room. You see the numbers, you don't really see it translate to the tape always, but he's one that, he's so long and such an athlete that if you gave Mike Munchak him in the 3rd round, you might have something.
Right. His RAS score was number 1 of all offensive linemen tested.
Yeah. Part of that is because he's so huge.
Right. Yeah. But yes, he had a 10.0, which is the highest score you can get. So very impressive there. All right. Yeah. Chase Wellner coming in here. I love that picture. That is great. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you guys feel about Farley's health concern? Is 9 a reach now? Yes. Yeah, it is. I think there's enough variables here where I'm concerned enough that, and also we don't have access to the medical information. So we're just projecting here. Like if I had my team doctor and he said, this is my analysis on it, and here's the report, and here's the projection long-term, and we think he's going to need another back surgery or not, blah, blah, blah. We don't have that. We can only speculate. But a second back surgery, 22 years old, still pretty raw to the position, and also other injuries as well, the ACL. Yep. It's all these things pile up. It's like, I like Fairley. It's a great scheme fit. 9 is a little rich. You do not have to do that also now with the moves you've made. That's we've been preaching this the whole time, right? Free agency, you fill your holes so you can go into the draft as holistically as possible and play the value game, take the best player available, let the board come to you, not being like, if I don't get player X at position, the draft spot 41 or 40, whatever, the whole season stinked. If you go into that, you're already sunk because so many other teams could do things, and other teams know that you're that weak and you're targeting that guy probably. You can't do that. Well, I remember that was the Garrett Bowles draft.
Scary.
Like it was. I can tell you, the Broncos were sweating bullets. They tried to trade clear up to, I think, like 10 to secure Garrett Bowles because they had such a huge hole at that left tackle spot. I think everybody and their dog knew they were going left tackle. It's just a matter of who they were going. Mm-hmm. And I think we figured out pretty quick as we got closer to the draft that it was Garrett Bowles was their top guy that they wanted. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. You don't want to have that kind of situation. Now, it worked out eventually with Garrett Bowles. It took time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a day one, hey, this guy was great for that. You like your draft picks to have at least a little bit of ability to kind of ease into the NFL because it is such a huge transition if you can. But yeah, the Broncos have done a great job where right now they really can go into the draft. I'm not seeing this major hole on the roster where you're going, that's the spot they have to go there at 9. And so it means that you can take some of the risk out of it. Guys like Micah Parsons with some of his off the field risks, you can take Farley off your board a little bit there at 9. Maybe you can say, hey, if he makes his second round, we're thinking about it. Maybe it's worth the risk at that point. But at 9, yeah, that's not worth our risk at this point. And it allows you to kind of look either offense or defense. You could add to either group and feel really good about it.
Yeah, and I want to come back to a point you just made as well. But first, let's get to John Juno coming in here. Who's the QB besides Wilson and Lawrence? I think Lawrence is quarterback 1. I've been here. I need to just trust my own gut, right? Like you see all these other people and you still want to crowdsource draft takes because there's people who are smarter than us and see different things. And if you're way off from general consensus, maybe you're doing something wrong because there's people who know more and you should still listen to them, right? But I've been here and I'm still here. Still selling fake doors. Sorry, Rick and Morty reference there. Trevor Lawrence, number 1. Easy. But then I have 2A, 2B, 2C. And whoever you want there, honestly, the one I want is whatever one's last on the board so I can trade the least to go get them. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields. I really like them all. I'm not interviewing them one-on-one, so I can't tell you which guy hit it off with me as like a coach or a personnel decision maker. All of them have the traits that I'm looking for as a quarterback. And also there's like Wilson has the shoulder injury, right? Like maybe that would be a concern. Maybe there's something with mechanically with Trey Lance that's leading to accuracy concerns. Or some people have said they really don't like Justin Fields throwing motion. Like I see it. It's a little bit odd, but it doesn't bother me that much. But that's where it is. And now we got people, I don't know if they're trolling me. They maybe are. I think Robert might be trolling me. Mac Jones. I laughed really hard today that George Payton did not go to Alabama to watch Mac Jones there. Now Alabama's having 2 pro days, but the second one is on the exact same day as Ohio State. And I would be shocked. I would be shocked if Payton decided to go to see Alabama to see Mac Jones play instead of Justin Field. I mean, it could happen, but I don't see it.
Did you see on Twitter, SEC released a video of Mac Jones with his deep throws? And they're like, look at how far he can throw the football. And like the receivers are waiting for like a second for the ball to get there. And I'm like, there's got to be better throws than this to highlight. Because
it's just a pro day.
He's an accurate passer. It wasn't his best pro day by any means. I don't think he wowed people with some of the things that he did on the field.
His testing was better than I expected. Now, enough salt with all these pro day testing numbers to kill 1,000 slugs, maybe 10,000. It's like, oh, this guy tested the best of all time. I'm like, well, everybody's going to test the best of all time when you're not having a standardized combine to run these guys through. But I would not probably take Mac Jones at 9. Did you see the Pro Football Focus take recently? I mean, I like a lot of what Pro Football Focus does, but sometimes they kind of like big brain themselves into stupid takes where they said like, oh, I think the Broncos should take Mac Jones instead of Trey Lance because Mac Jones could be better for them day 1, and then they could move on from him. A top 10 pick at quarterback, you're going to draft him thinking I'm going to replace him in 5 years. What are we doing? I mean, I picked like 32, kind of like what the Vikings did with Teddy Bridgewater or something like that. I get it down there, but 30 at the top 10, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah, and
that was the dumbest.
Well, and the other thing is Mac Jones and Trey Lance have the same number of starts in college football. So this idea that, hey, Mac Jones is the seasoned veteran that's going to be NFL ready compared to Trey Lance, all because Mac Jones is a couple years older. I get that there's some maturity in some of that, and I get that he's been in a college locker room for a couple more years, but there's still actual game footage. You got the same number of games. So it just, like I said, that just kind of baffles me on some of that. But John Houston coming in here. Davis Mills looked nice on his pro day. third pickup.
I don't know what the last bit means, but he did. And he was the number one pocket quarterback or pro style quarterback. Excuse me. I don't pay attention to recruiting that much, so I don't know what these different vernaculars, where Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, one of them was like the best dual threat quarterback, and the other one was the best one at another site. I think 247 versus ESPN. But either way, Davis Mills. You talk about a guy who's played games. What has he played? Like 11 games? And so that's why he's going to be a day 3 quarterback. He's had injuries. David Shaw speaks really highly about him. I think he's one I would take a day 3 shot on, like round 4, if he's there. Him, Jamie Newman, and Kellen Mond, like those are the guys that I'm thinking like late. Like I would take all of those before Kyle Trask probably, just because the tools, the upside. I think Trask is a higher floor, but I'm glad we don't have to argue in the chat anymore about Kyle Trask. Those were some dark days. But that's Mills is one that's nice. I just taking a day 2, day 3 quarterback these days just feels like, your family's starving and you have a chance to go to the store down the street, right? And you can buy them food, right? That's fine. Oh, but that scratch ticket, I could win $1 million if I hit that scratch ticket. Like, just buy the food, man. It's right there. Like that's what it feels like a day 3 quarterback feels for me. I don't know. Like we tried it with Locke. We tried it with other guys. You're sitting in there in the top 10 in a class where 4 or 5 guys are going to go top 10. But what are we doing?
Yeah. And I do see some, I guess maybe just comment on this real quick. The Watson situation, he's off my board until this whole legal issue gets figured out. And it has to get figured out, obviously, in his favor that something weird was going on. We're getting to that point, though, of enough people coming out that the odds are something's there. But I don't even want to speculate on that at any point. And so, to me, Watson, he's just not even a thought right now when it comes to the quarterback position.
Yep. Unobtainable, right?
Yep.
Unavailable. I think that's the way we got to go right now.
Right. So Dennis Woods coming in here, looking good in that picture there. So if we're pretty happy with the roster except quarterback, should we move up to get a quarterback? Hashtag DB4L, hashtag state of being from Michigan. And
Upper Peninsula or Lower Peninsula? Let us know, Dennis.
Yeah.
That's that Wisconsin where you do the mitten. I can't remember.
So here's what I told the guys in the group chat earlier, that if the Broncos take, because we're probably going to do our live show again for the draft. I'm guessing that's going to be a thing. Don't quote me completely on that yet. We haven't talked to Chad fully. But if the Broncos trade up and take a quarterback in the first round, I am going to do the monkey tail beard trimming for day 2 of the draft. And I'm going to have it the entire day for that.
Brought to you by Manscaped.
Yes, exactly. Now I saw I'd made a comment earlier about the monk haircut, and my wife said, absolutely not. She said, I have a line and that's it. So that won't be happening. I'm sorry, everyone.
Monkey tail, though, that'd be good.
Yeah. She said, oh, yeah, that's fine. You can do that.
Good wife. Good job.
I know. I'm kind of like, I can cover the monk thing up with a hat, but you're good with that. So
Mark
holding
Sam's
me
gonna
to
hold
it.
you
Yes,
to
you can definitely hold me to that. So I do. I think quarterback going and trading up for one, if they really like a guy and they're looking at this roster and saying, we are a quarterback away from really competing not only for the AFC West, but for the Super Bowl, and we can keep surrounding this guy, especially for the next 5 years when he is cost controlled, you make that move 100 times out of 100. And I know some people are like, well, they swung and missed on Paxton Lynch, on Osweiler, and at some point we just got to say we can't do this. No, not the quarterback position. You keep swinging. You keep hoping that you're going to get that guy. The Chiefs, I think people forget, they swung at Paxton Lynch. The Broncos just outbid them. The Cowboys with Dak Prescott, who they just made buku bucks, they wanted Paxton Lynch. It is said that Jerry Jones was so upset, maybe he was even crying that night because he was so upset that he missed out on Paxton Lynch and had to settle for Dak Prescott. The Chiefs missing out on Paxton Lynch had to settle for Patrick Mahomes. So sometimes you almost get lucky in those kind of situations. But you got to keep swinging. You got to hope that you're going to find your guy at some point there.
Yeah, and I want to get to this. Oh, go ahead. There you go. Shadow Jacker coming in here. Really looking forward to an uncaged Enrage number 58. Just completely massacre opposing opponents. You bring the bags, I'll bring the toe tags. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about it. There's a lot of debate in the football community. You know, what is more important, coverage or pass rush or coverage? You know, where do you want to go? Where do you want to spend? They both matter, right? And they both feed into each other. It's a positive feedback loop. So now the Broncos have 5 defensive backs that you feel pretty good with, as long as they can all stay on the field. That feels pretty good. Then you have 4 pass rushers in nickel: Shelby Harris, Draymond Jones, who I think people sleep on, Bradley Chubb, and Von Miller. I mean, the only piece of the cake or formula that's missing, the Broncos playing with a lead, right? And that comes down to the offense and the quarterback position. But like, if they can play with a lead, those guys are going to be really, really destructive and stay healthy too, right? Yep. But I'm really excited. This defense should be a lot of fun. I want to get to this one here, top 5. I agree. I want Jillian Richard Reese coming in here. I still think we grab Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons. So at this point, I think we just need to kind of come out and say the allegations right now. So there's multiple right now with Micah Parsons out there. There's the one where he went over and poured water and destroyed his teammates' electronics, and they got into a fight. There's been ones where he was hazing a teammate and the teammate pulled a knife on him. But there's another one where let's just say it involves some stuff that would be related to Manscaped and teammates in the locker room, and teammates being held down and using body parts around them without consent in the Penn State locker room. And I'm sorry, like that is, I've been in locker rooms before. If somebody did that to me, I'm calling the cops, right. You know, the very least, like, what are we doing? And the other thing is Bucky Brooks, who knows him personally, friend of the family. Bucky Brooks has done everything he can to not endorse this guy. He's saying like, oh man, Micah Parsons, really talented. Don't know if he ever gets the maturity down. And like Bucky's like friends of the family, knows this guy for a long time. Like that's about as much like this. That's a softball question. Like, would you endorse him? Red flags. I learned the hard way with Malik McDowell. Not going to take the cheese with Micah Parsons. I'm sorry. There's just too many other good linebackers too. Like you don't need to go with him.
Right. And that's just it. If those who are closest to you aren't willing to endorse you, that's not a great sign. Like those are the people that should be the home run easily. Oh yeah, that's our guy. And when those people aren't saying, yeah, this guy, go get him. This is the most talented player in this draft. When they're not saying things like that, it's not good news. I mean, this is why we always talk about with on the Broncos team. If you see a teammate endorse another teammate, I mean, that's great. But it doesn't really say a whole lot because you already know like they're called to support their team.
Not speaking speaks more volumes than the other way. Right.
Right.
Like
exactly.
The absence of standing up for them is like, that's a red flag. If they stand up for them though, like it's like, okay, well, that's a good thing for the culture, the locker room, et cetera, et cetera. So yes.
Right. And the other thing with Micah Parsons, somebody else, I think it was James said it, of what people think he is, he's not. He's not that coverage guy. I think a lot of people have this idea that because of his athleticism, he's going to be the Kelsey and the Waller stopper. That's not his game right now. Now, it doesn't mean he can't develop that, but if you're expecting that, especially his rookie year, that's just not going to happen. He's more of your downhill, I'm going to go hit somebody as hard as I possibly can. You want him attacking the quarterback. That's what you're wanting.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark Anthony makes a good point here. We are building a strong culture here with leaders, don't need as immature, but trying to touch our players. I mean, I don't know if he's doing that in an NFL locker room, but the fact that he was involved with that is concerning. And there's just, it's one of those things where it's not just one incident. There are multiple incidents out there where, and I can tell you guys, I was infatuated with Malik McDowell coming out because of his athleticism, his flexibility, his power, his length. I mean, they don't build defensive linemen like Malik McDowell. I don't even know if he ever played a snap in the league. Right, he had that snowmobiling accident. He was getting in fights with teammates, yelling at coaches, et cetera, et cetera. And everyone's like, Nick, this guy's an idiot. Like, he's gonna go early because he's still talented, but like, whatever. And he was top 5 talent, easy. You could see it on tape. Like, it was just obvious this guy's a top 5 talent. Fell to the second round, didn't play a single snap in the NFL. And I'm getting a lot of the same vibes with Parsons. I don't know if it's to the same extent as Malik McDowell, but like, if I was making choices, I would let somebody else take a chance on him. There's just other ways I would go.
I'm with you there. All right, let's see. What questions we got in here?
We had somebody said, can you talk about your favorite day 2 linebacker? The chat is moving quickly, so that's oh, here we go. It's from Chase Wellner with a funny picture here. Who's your favorite day 2 linebackers? I have two that I really, really like. Actually, I'll go with three. And I think that people are starting to catch up on them. I did work on linebacker earlier, and I was like, oh, people are talking about these guys, and now it's like they're all in
Right.
Jordan Reed's top 50, which is a bummer. But I really like Baron Browning. Liked him for a bit. I would give a shout out to Justin Gamble there, who's a draft Twitter, and he was saying why are people talking about Micah Parsons when Baron Browning's a better player and better in coverage and a smarter player? So what are we doing? Baron Browning I like a lot. I really like Jamin Davis from Kentucky. He's one that he's not as refined as Browning is right now, I think, in coverage, but you're talking about length, sideline to sideline, speed, athleticism, it's all there. You just need to put it together. But there's a lot of linebackers in this class, not many that have that burst. Jamin Davis has it. I also really like Cameron McGrone. Have some questions about the length, the ability to disengage from blocks, but 2019 tape, very good. And if you could get him at 71, great. I'd love that.
Yeah. Got a lot of people, of course, talking about Cox. And
I wanted to like him more than I did. I'll be honest, guys.
And then you got Sternad, of course, still in the building, that he could possibly be a coverage guy for you. I do think one thing to kind of think about is I don't think by the Broncos taking a linebacker, it means that they're down on Sternad. It just means they're also looking at the fact that Jewell's going to be gone pretty soon. Alexander is a restricted free agent, and he's on the older side of things, even for being a restricted free agent. He's 29 now, 28. Mm-hmm. And so just a lot, not a guy you really like to sign to that long-term contract. And neither of them are those true 3-down kind of linebackers that you like to have on the field all the time. So the Broncos really are still looking to add to that position, just not only for the now, but for the future as well.
Yep. And we got William Brown coming up. What up, Nick? Thoughts on Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah? This is one that I keep seeing people mock him to the Broncos, and I'm like, he's a great player, but where does he play? I think it was Dane Brugler and Lance Zierlein were very connected draft folks saying that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, listed at 220, 215 for Notre Dame, actually played closer to 200. And I'm sorry, that's you have the really anomaly guy of Darius Leonard playing at 215, but he's got 35-inch arm length. He's different. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, he's a safety before he's a linebacker. Is he going to, in 3-4 defense, especially with Vic Fangio, you're going to have to take on offensive linemen. You're going to have to fill in the blocks. It's not like you have multiple girth guys up front that are just eating offensive linemen. You're going to have to play through the trash. And Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, I just don't think he can in the scheme. I think he compares more to Jamal Adams than any linebacker. So great player. I don't see him as a scheme fit. There's guys how often do the Broncos actually use man coverage for their linebackers? Right? How often do they use that? Barely ever. Give me the guy with more length that's bigger, better against the run, and equitably as fast. And Baron Browning, 15 picks later. It just seems that's the obvious play.
Yeah. All right. We have Muhammad, Braun, and St. Carl in the house. Thank you very much. Always love seeing Muhammad in here. And then John Houston coming in, and love John Elway, that picture. I feel like, is that a poster that is out there? Because I feel like that's a poster that was similar to that one, at least growing up. But any chance Farley falls to the second, #ride with Locke. I think there's a good chance now. Didn't play this whole last year. Then now he's not going to do his pro day, so he can't have the numbers that just wow people and say, okay, no matter what, this guy has to go top 15 in the draft. Not that numbers matter everything, and I think everybody knows how athletic he is, but it's still just having those secure numbers that you can look at and say, look at that, or just seeing him go through some drills again when you haven't really seen him for a whole entire year. That can make a difference in making teams feel a lot more comfortable with the situation that he's in right now. And so I think there's a very good chance that he falls either to the end of round one, where somebody like the Chiefs are like, hey, this is a chance to take a guy that could have been a top 5 pick if he played this last year and was healthy, that we get at the end of round one, or you could see him there at the beginning of round 2. That wouldn't surprise me. And then if you do have some teams get a hold of some real medicals on him and they don't come back looking great, he could fall even further. We've seen it before.
Yeah, I mean, Daquan Bowers, I don't know if that name means anything to anybody, but he was a guy who was going to go. Some people thought he was, the best player in that 2011 class. Early mocks were saying Daquan Bowers, edge rusher from Clemson. And there's oh man, that knee, really scary, falls to the second round. So if the Broncos traded back to 20 to 30 to 40 even, and Farley's there, and you wanted to give him a redshirt season, I think his talent and his scheme fit is worth that, especially when you have 2 cornerbacks coming off the books next year. in Bryce Callahan and Kyle Fuller. That's like for cornerback, edge rusher, offensive tackle, you want to have a plan in place for those positions before they are holes, right? Like you talked about how much Garrett Bowles struggled year one. You don't want to have that with an offensive tackle. You'd rather have a guy come in and that can be eased in because there is going to be a learning curve. And then that next year they can take over. And all three of those positions line up where the Broncos will have potential holes at those spots this year. So in a trade back, if there's somebody where you can kind of bring them in slowly, it doesn't have to be amazing year one and then plan for them to be a starter, 22 and beyond, that's a great plan. A little better plan when you have a quarterback in place that you trust and believe in. But I definitely think it's something that, you got to be thinking long-term. Free agency, again, free agency is about filling holes for the immediate team. Draft is about getting the best talent, not only for the rookie contract, but for the career arc of those prospects you're bringing in.
Right. I think the Ravens, I heard somebody talking about this the other day, and I didn't even think about it, but one of the things they do is every couple of years, they will focus in the second and third round on pass rushers. Mm-hmm. And then they'll give them about 2 years to really develop behind the guys that they took 2 years earlier. And so they just kind of keep cycling through them. And then those guys go get big contracts, and then they get a third round comp that they turn into a new pass rusher. And I'm going, man, that is genius. You are getting just free money right there, just making it work. And, obviously that they've gotten themselves set up. They've always had a really good roster. They've always had a great front office and figuring those things out. But you see too many teams that operate out of fear for the immediate and can't have that long-term view. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, it's just not good at all. It leads to bad decisions.
Yep, you're 100% correct there. We had CJ Morris coming in here, trade down and draft Najee Harris. CJ, we appreciate the comment on Facebook. I'm not with you on the Najee Harris trade down thing. I just think that running back is one of those positions. It's the lowest paid position out of the starters in the NFL, at least for the top guys. And rookie contracts are slotted, right? So like if they're not different based on position except quarterback, because as always, quarterback operates in its own universe compared to everything else because it's so valuable and different. But why would you take a running back where you're going to pay them and he's going to come in and be, the 12th highest paid running back year one, where you could take a cornerback there and he would be like the 40th highest paid cornerback, right? Like it's a numbers game. And then you have more money to spend elsewhere because you already have a cheap cost control guy at the cornerback. So then you can make moves like this. The Broncos have made this offseason. So it's all about trying to maximize your value, and taking a running back in the first round, burning that fifth year option on a running back is, I don't know. I really don't like the value. Second, day two, like if let's say Najee Harris or Javonte Williams is there at 40, honestly, Carl, with how good the Broncos have done in the free agency so far, I'm fine with that. And I'm not running backs don't matter as anybody, but like that's where you're looking to go get those guys. So thank you for the comment, though. I don't agree with if you can trade down into day two and get Najee Harris, it's fine. But I think I can find somebody else day two that can provide equitable value, and I can get better value elsewhere.
Right. All right. Andrew Switzer coming in here with a great question. If we drafted Zaven Collins in the late Zaven Collins in the late first, mid second, where would he fit on our defense? Would he take over Jules' role? I'm super high on Collins because of his work ethic.
Yes, he would take over him. I think you have AJ or Alexander more as the Mike, and Josie playing Will. And I think Zaven, despite his size, he's not actually the most physical guy between the tackles. They have him. He's really weird. There's a lot of plays where he's like playing way deep. And I don't think he's the best athlete, but because of his length and solid fluidity, I think you can drop in there, especially because there's just so much zone drops in this defense. You're not isolating linebackers on tight ends in man coverage. It's another reason that JOK is, so I think it's okay. I like Jamin Davis and Baron Brown a little more. Coming back to linebacker here, talking about coverage linebackers here from the base case, is Parsons really a coverage linebacker, or is that a misconception? Who are your favorite off-ball linebackers in this draft? Well, we've been talking a lot about linebackers. It's obviously on the forefront of Broncos country now that this defense has taken shape. But what are your thoughts, Carl?
Well, I think when we're looking at this defense as a whole, you are looking at that linebacker group as the one where you have two starters, but that can be improved upon. And so, of course, that's why we're talking about this kind of group. But Parsons, yes, he's not a coverage guy. He did it a little in college, but for the most part, Penn State wanted him coming downhill because that's his talent. He started off at edge, and they moved him to off ball because they could kind of move him around and use that athleticism in different ways. And it's just, like I said, it's just not his game right now to be dropping back in coverage. And you can have him play a little bit of zone, but even there, I worry because his instincts are just not always great. You see him out of position, even on run plays. there's a lot of times he gives the cutback lane because he overplays the play. And so that's why, again, I just think when people are looking at Parsons, they are having a misconception on what he's going to bring to the Broncos day one. There's other guys in this draft that are much better coverage guys day one, if that's what you're looking for.
But I will say, in a vacuum with Parsons' talent, he is something that he can bring that Devin White ability to this defense, where the Broncos, like he's not going to be matching up with Travis Kelce down the seam. Like that's not his game. However, the balls to the flats, the little hitches to the running back or swing passes, coming like a missile out in the flats and closing space and hitting guys and just really making it hard to maximize the yak ability on those quick passing games. And that's,
right.
With the Broncos defense, the way it's set up, if you can get a linebacker who can close on space in a hurry in pursuit, and especially with how soft they play with coverage, the most off coverage in football from their cornerbacks in the NFL last year. And that's going to continue to be the thing. That's what Vic Fangio likes to do. It's press corners. It's not happening. So I do think that in a vacuum, there is an argument for Parsons. It's not in a way that many people think about it. As far as like this matchup linebacker, that's just not how they use their linebackers. And that's not how Parsons plays. It's just the off-field stuff being a devalued position. I can't have it. Like, it's too much. I'll let somebody else take the risk, right? Like if he hits, great. There's other good players. I don't have to put that much risk on that position, that player.
Right.
All right. I think
we have Ben Dover.
Man, speaking of Parsons,
he got me. How does the locker room react if we take a quarterback at 9? I would say locker rooms are kind of like kids, and they are willing to change. They're adaptable. Like they are going to support you, and they'll stay your friend if you go to another team. I mean, players talk about all these different relationships that they form, but if you're in that locker room, they're going to find a way to support you, unless you are just the biggest jerk in the world. They're going to find a way to support you. And so they're just going to, they realize all the veterans have gone through this. How many different quarterbacks have come through Denver in the last 6-7 years? And at times they've all supported them in different ways.
I mean, Von Miller talking about Trevor Siemian is some of the most nauseating things I ever heard in my life. Like, we're going to be dancing around the locker room, holding hands and winning playoff games. No, you're not. But
and
thank
he
you,
was
for being supportive.
Right. He was well liked by a lot of people. I mean, he got his offensive linemen, those Skittle jackets. Those were fancy. I like those.
Yeah.
And I like Trevor Siemian, the person. I mean, they're always going to like a lot of these people, the person. But the biggest thing, they want to go out there and win. And if they think somebody's going to come in and help them win, they're going to support them.
Even bigger, if they think that somebody's going to come in and help them earn more money, they'll support that guy. Because at the end of the day, it is a business. And if they think they can get somebody in there that can help them do better and make better earnings down the line, they'll fall in line. We got Brad coming in here with the, I think it's probably a super sticker. Brad, thank you very much. We appreciate you. And a nice little family. It looks like a picture in Colorado somewhere. So I appreciate you over on Facebook. Thank you, Brad. And also, did we get this Muhammad one? There we go. Yep. The pair. That's Muhammad Badri's boy. He calls me Bron or Tywin. Sometimes if I'm being a little negative Nancy or, too maniacal, he can call me Tywin. But Muhammad Badri coming in with a pair. He loves that guy. You are amazing, Muhammad. We really appreciate you. Yeah, the hat. I would take off my hat, but my hair is kind of a mess right now. Also, the headset. That's too much work, right?
Yeah.
Work smart, not hard. So, Carl, we have about 10 minutes left, and we've been talking about it for a bit. So you said you would trade up for a quarterback. I want to get to you on this real quick and see what the chat has to say about this as well. First off, where are you trading, and who are you trading for? And also, Paul coming in. Paul, appreciate you. Paul is big fan of my pets. He always likes it when I post my pets on Twitter, so I always appreciate that. Paul, you missed it. Before the show, I had my cat and the dog in here going nuts, and the wife trying to freak out, trying to get him out of here. Carl, what would be your plan? I think I talked about this last time, but let's say, I think it's becoming pretty obvious that 1 and 2 is going to be Trevor Lawrence, and then 2 will be Zach Wilson. I would think those guys are probably unattainable. Granted, things change. We thought Sam Darnold was going number 1 up until 40 minutes before the draft or an hour before the draft. And it's actually it's Baker. But let's just go with that reality right now. What's happening?
Well, I'm getting up to 3. I'm not messing around. I'm torn on what Atlanta's going to do. I don't know if they're going to go quarterback or not. And so, and I think there could almost be just as big of a bidding war for 3 as there is for 4. because once that third guy goes, everybody's going to be freaking out going, I got to get that fourth guy. And so you might even see a bigger haul almost if that's what happens on draft night, of just teams panicking, wanting to give as much as possible, make sure they get that fourth guy. So if I can go to 3 and have my choice between the two and get to say, hey, I like this guy more, talk to my coaches, say this is the guy that we think fits our system, fits, character-wise, what we're looking for. I mean, I'm with you. 2A, 2B, 2C. I like them all for different reasons. They all bring a little something different to the picture, and you can see different ways that you can use them within the offense and see high success from any of them. So right now, I do have Fields above Lance, so I'm getting to 3, and I'm probably taking Justin Fields. Now, it seems like a lot of people are really down on Fields. I don't get it.
It's giving me the heebie-jeebies a little bit, but I kind of felt this way heading into last year a little bit with Justin Herbert too.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, Justin Herbert wouldn't take him in the first round. He's inaccurate. Can't feel the pocket. And like, this guy's twitchy and got a huge arm and is a genius. Right. Like, it's how hard is it? But,
and I'd say Justin Fields, I know we hear a lot about Trey Lance and his intelligence, which it's bumped him up a lot for me on some things, but I don't think Justin Fields is an idiot either. I think he's pretty darn intelligent himself. I've listened to him in interviews. He is a very well-spoken man. You see the leadership in the games where the man just takes over, makes plays out of nothing. And I mean, we get to see that every week in the NFL, watching Patrick Mahomes do it, and it stinks. And Justin Herbert this last year was, I think, second in the NFL on passing rate or passer rating when under pressure, because he was under pressure like the entire season.
Doesn't count though, Carl. We have to toss the season out. He broke all the passing records, but it doesn't count because it was a first season. He didn't get to work with his teammates at OTAs, the offensive line was the worst in the NFL. So like, I know that it was great, but we're not going to hold it for him or against him. So let's just clean slate. Yeah,
but like I said, I like both those guys. So if the Broncos went either way, I'd sit there and say, good job, Broncos. You just got a guy that I think can really become a true top 5, top 7 quarterback in the NFL, can actually compete with the Herberts, can compete with the Mahomes, give the Broncos a chance. And I think this is such an underrated thing that people are just not talking about, is resetting the quarterback clock, that 5-year contract. Drew Lock with 2 compared to that 5. It is just such a big difference in how you can build your roster moving forward. When you're talking about guys that have to get paid pretty soon, of Cortland Sutton, Dalton Reisner is going to have to get paid halfway soon. Noah Fant here coming down the road. You're looking at defensive guys. What are you going to be doing with Draymond Jones? Bradley Chubb. He's going to be a really big one coming up that you're going to have to pay. And so you got some big contracts that might be coming up that you set that quarterback and you can sit there and say, oh yeah, we can pay these guys. That's no big deal. But if you have to think about, are we going to pay Drew Lock or are we going to pay these guys? And we still have to figure out our quarterback position. If we don't pay Lock, then you're in a huge place of confusion. So that's like I said, that's such an underrated part of this entire equation.
Yeah. And for me, you're with Drew Lock right now, and that's not the worst place to be. But let's say Drew Lock is a bottom 5 quarterback again next season like he was last year. And this roster is too good to be picking 9. Like they were picking 9 this year with all the injuries they had and playing the toughest schedule in the NFL, right? Like it's not going to happen again next year. So then that puts you in the position where you are also like the Bears this year or the Washington football team. Carl, I am going to lose my bleeping mind if the Broncos are in a position, well, we don't believe in Drew Lock. Let's pay Andy Dalton $15 million a year. Like kill me. Just end it. Like I would be so upset. That's the position where you're in. So I really think there's talk of like trading back, and maybe if Drew Lock fails, maybe going back up again next year. Whatever capital you get next in the trade back, you're gonna have to use to get exactly where you are right now, right? Like maybe. So like, if you have any reservations, the time is now, right? Adam Schefter saying 4 quarterbacks going to the top 6 or 7. The rare season. The time is now. Right. If you have any reservations, you have to think about pulling the trigger. And the worst case, let's say Drew Lock is great and the other quarterback's great. Think about what quarterbacks are going for this year. Carson Wentz, horrible this year. Horrible. A second round pick and a future first. Mm-hmm. You're going to get surplus value back. it's an investment. You can get dividends at the end, for your finance people out there. So I don't know.
We're talking the same with Sam Darnold, that they're looking at probably getting at least a second round pick for a guy that you could say played worse than Drew Lock this last year. That was even worse. I mean, he's maybe the worst quarterback in football this last year. And that's coming from a guy that loves Sam Darnold. But that's just the value of quarterback. Sam Bradford a few years ago, when Minnesota was desperate for a quarterback, the guy had been injured his entire career, never played it more than being a top 15 quarterback at best, got them a first round pick from Philly. And
even with the bloated contract, look at what they were able to trade Goff, right? That's another one too. Like, it's quarterbacks have value. They retain value. Like right now, if the Sam Darnold is as bad as any quarterback in the league over the last couple seasons, and if the Jets trade him, they probably get a 2+. You're probably getting even less than that for Saquon Barkley, right? That's just how valuable the quarterback is. They retain their value. Even if they play bad, they retain their value, especially if they've been picked early. We will see what happens there. But my plan, you're talking about, going up to 3. I am calling the Atlanta Falcons today and saying, what do you want? Because if I can get to 4, I feel like that's kind of like the Jets when they moved up to 3, because they had 3 quarterbacks that they really liked. They knew they couldn't guarantee whatever one, but they had 3 that they would have been fine with going there. And I'm like, what do you want for me to get to 4? Because if I can get to 4, I'm guaranteed one of those quarterbacks. And if I get the last one, I'm okay with it. I like them all that much. So that's what I'm doing right now. If they say no, or they're blackballing me or whatever, then whatever, fine. We'll wait. But I'm making a deal to get up to 4 right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't wait. When the Eagles and the Rams got up to number 1. Yeah, those two teams, when they traded up pretty far from, they were down at like 13, 14 in the draft, and traded all the way up early on. That was smart. Then you know what you're doing, you know what it's going to cost, and you don't have to do this whole 10 minutes of bidding against other teams and hoping that you end up on top. That's the way I would do it too, if any team would be willing to do it. And I think the Dolphins right now, I think the Falcons even, because they have a ton of roster holes and no cap space and a quarterback that they are going to be paying for the next 3 years for sure. Yeah, I think they would be like, this is our way of getting ourselves back into a good cap situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Robert Kitchens coming here. Why did we get rid of Skangs? He worked great with Locke. Vic Fangio and Skangs did not have the best, from what I heard, best relationship. They had different opinions on how to move the football. Skangs was just far too conservative, because you talk about a great relationship. It did not sound like Skangs fully trusted Locke to be out there, because you kind of saw it last year. Like, what happens when you take the training wheels off Locke? The second highest rate of turnovers in the league last year. Gosh darn, like, for a defensive coach, got to drive you nuts. But what can you do? We had James Campbell coming in. Oh, real quick, it was up in there. If you want to trade up, you got to do it early. See, that's the price is only going to get bigger, right? If you can be the team that sets the market, that's the way to do it. It's another good reason the Broncos paying Justin Simmons before Jamal Adams, before Minka Fitzpatrick, before Derwin James get paid. He's the highest paid highest paid safety in the NFL for the next 2 months. So, and Dylan coming in here, I wouldn't wait. So we'll see. I saw somebody ask the Broncos trading up or bringing in Kareem Jackson. Do you have any thoughts there, Carl? Like, do we have any needs left on this team? We have probably about another 5-10 minutes before we get on out of here. So the Broncos, holistic view in the draft. We can kind of talk like secondary needs, tertiary needs, whatever's after tertiary. Where does this roster stack up right now to you? And where are some areas that maybe could still use a little bit of some WD-40, maybe some cleaning to oil it up before we get going?
Well, you said it earlier, that right tackle spot, or just tackle in general, has that red blinking light just going, warning, warning, something bad's about to happen here. And Juwan James, when he is healthy, or at least when he was before, he was a pretty good right tackle. But we don't know, he hasn't played football in 2 years hardly at all. And so we don't know what he's right. We don't know what he's going to be when he comes back. We don't even know how he's going to fit into the locker room, because there was talk at one point the Broncos were just going to go, you know what? We're just done with this guy. He's not a good locker room guy. Got to get him out of here. It doesn't matter what it cost us. They decided to go ahead and keep him. But like I said, Calvin Anderson, he is working out with Garrett Bowles, and that's great. But if that's what you're banking on as this is our guy in case something happens to Juwan James, you are putting a lot of faith in a guy that is limited, at least athletically, to actually become something good there. And this is a pretty good draft when we're talking about the tackle position. So I'd definitely be looking in that kind of direction. There we go. But that'd be one position for me. Coverage linebacker obviously is another. Inside defensive line could probably use another guy for depth just to really kind of round out that group. Plus, it seems to be a position that has a lot of injuries throughout the season. Purcell's coming back from injury. Shelby Harris missed games last year. That was mostly because of sickness, but still, he's had some concerns with some of those kind of things. But otherwise, I mean, wide receiver looks good. Running back could use another player. Just I like the signing that the Broncos made in Boone, but I like it more for special teams than I do for the offense.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I still would like another defensive back. It doesn't have to be free agency, but even as simple as bringing Will Parks back for like $1.5 million to be a third safety that can do some slot and box work, that would be fine with me. That's probably about the value that I'd be giving him though, because otherwise you can find another guy out there. That could also be another nickel cornerback in general. That is one though I'm probably looking more towards the draft. Just because you want to get that long-term value. And I would love Elijah Molden round 2 if he's there. Really though, it's more so about the needs on this team are more about what's coming up in 2022. Von Miller, Juwan James, and 2 cornerbacks, right? Those are the money positions. You got to start thinking about how you're going to patch those now. So that way you're not sitting here with your pants around your ankles a year from now being like, we don't have enough resources to fill, I'm not going to say fill those holes, to, roster those positions. We'll see what happens there. But, Carl, any other thoughts before we get out of here? No Fly Zone 2.0. I guess we should talk about that. Oh, Tim Dirk coming in here, flashing the ring. What about Jarrell Casey? Again, he's another one. If he wants to come back on a vet min, the more the merrier. I'm honestly sitting there waiting, like, are the Bears going to release Akeem Hicks? Because then I might be interested. Come home, play with Daddy Vic. I'm all about that. Let's have a reunion. Dotson, that's another one. I would bring back Dotson. I'd have Dotson versus Calvin Anderson and let the best man win, right? Like that's one I just think like that doesn't hurt your team, right? If any of those guys are going to make it, I'm sorry, an exclusive rights free agent. I know Anderson tweets a lot and he likes and hurts and retweets people's tweets, but like if he wants to make this team, I think he's got to earn it given what his profile is and what we've seen so far, especially with concerns at right tackle. So I don't know. Aldon Smith, that's an interesting name. Talk about a little bit of head case, but like one that you could get. You're not spending a top 9 pick on Aldon Smith, right? Even though I did think he went number 9, maybe. That was JJ Watt that year. I don't remember. But maybe Aldon Smith. You need some edge, right? Like you could use another edge. I like Malik Reed a lot. Derek Tuska after that, though. I mean, we'll see. Yeah,
and Aldon Smith does seem to have at least a little bit got his head on his shoulders. He hasn't had a legal issue here in quite a while. So maybe he's matured, can at least bring a little something. He's not going to be great by any means. Not like he was his rookie and second year in the league, but 7th. He went 7th overall. Okay. Thank you, Bill. I knew our chat always has our back for that kind of stuff. Got a Miller 707 champ coming in here with KJ Wright.
I mean, how much is KJ Wright actually that much better than what you have right now? Right? Like he's fine, but he's kind of older. I would rather bring in, Eric Wilson. If you're going to bring in somebody, the Minnesota linebacker, a little bit younger, a little bit more movement skills. That's where I lean rather than having KJ Wright to come in and play a system that he's not played. Yeah. Maturity in the NFL is not having legal trouble. I mean, what can you say, right? We've all had, days where like, should I commit a crime? Because I'm very upset.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't quite have this whole adult thing figured out until I got into my 30s. That was about that point where it started really hitting like, okay, now it's time to become an adult. So I can understand, especially when you're handing these guys millions of dollars and saying, hey, go be responsible. That's just not going to happen. So I can understand sometimes why they get themselves in some trouble with all this.
And that's a good point too. You're talking here with the draft. You're not investing in a player, you're investing in a person. And if you don't do the work on the character side of things, you end up like the Titans with Isaiah Wilson, 1st round pick just a year ago, out of the league. I mean, it's beyond that what you see on the field, you need somebody who eats and breathes and loves football. Do they love the game? Do they have their head on right? Because if not, you're just burning the pick, and those things are valuable. So, we'll see what happens. But guys, we got to get on out of here. We do really appreciate you. That's going to do it for Building the Broncos tonight. Guys, make sure you follow us on Twitter. Follow me at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also follow Carl at Carl Dumler, MHH. Also make sure you follow the guy behind the scenes here, John K at John K MHH. Thank you guys so much for being a supporter and all the questions you guys have. We got another one coming in here actually right now from Christian Garas coming in here. Sorry I'm late. I'm just dropping in and showing some love. Hashtag State of Being, hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Thank you so much, Christian. Got to let us know what fish you have there in that picture too. It looks like a hell of a catch. God, I miss fishing so much. My buddy's been starting to fish back in Midwest. It's starting to thaw there, and he's been catching crappie, and I'm like, oh, God bless. I need it. I need to get out there. Guys, you can find all our content over at Mile High Huddle. We've been really working pretty hard. I think I'm up to 30 articles this month, and I know Carl's been dropping a lot as well. So, it's the free agency is kind of come and gone. There still might be a few moves here, but like now we are on to the really philosophical side of things where it's like the draft game, team building. What are we going to do in the draft? Move up, trade down, best fits, and guys like Eric Trickle, Lance Anderson, James Campbell, those guys all really shine this time of the year. So I encourage you to go check them out as well. Head on over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. That can really help us. Carl, I keep forgetting. I need to go check the comments there because we'll pull them up if somebody's jumping on. But if you do that, guys, we will pull it up and talk about it on here, kind of like a super chat. It really does help us. Most important thing you guys can do, like, subscribe, and share. If you are joining us on YouTube or if you're joining us on Facebook, click those thumbs up. We're up to 42 right now. That's a good number. Maybe it'll be 43. There you go. That person looks really surprised. The wow. We got wows from John Fields and Terrence Henton. Thank you guys for the wows. So yeah, that can really help us doing so. It doesn't just help this show. It helps the Mile High Insiders on Saturday. It helps the Dove Valley Deep Divers on Friday. And it helps the Huddle Up podcast with Zach and Chad every other day of the week. We're here every single day of the week, bringing you live shows where we can all talk football and hang out and just, forget about the rest of the world for a little bit. Even if it's just for a little bit, that escape is great. Follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. Carl, you got any plans the rest of the night? Making sure that we didn't get any super chats that we missed here before we get on out.
Well, I leave for Vegas on Thursday, so I got to go home and pack and get myself ready for my trip.
Okay. What do you, is it the Spartan run? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm very irritated at the Raiders, man. I was really hoping that they would release Mariota because I am not about trading capital for like Nick Foles. Like, yeah, just blah. Like even like Gardner Minshew or Sam Darnold. Like I like those guys in a vacuum, but like when you don't have a quarterback and you're trading for guys that are like I view as marginal, like that's I don't really like doing that. So I was hoping that for a Mariota release, but the Raiders are going to upset me once again. It is what it is.
But I will make sure that I go get myself a picture with the Roomba and show you that I was right there in the middle of the enemy's territory. I
need you to get one of like a perspective shot, but like pants around the knees, like dropping, yeah, one of those ones. I can Photoshop the little poop emoji with the smile and little stinkies coming off of it.
Okay,
because it does look like
I'll try to get that for you.
So, well, that's a great way to end the show, guys. We really do appreciate you. Stay safe. Again, thinking about all you in Colorado. Really, just take care of yourself, and we'll see you next Tuesday.